It's the Poojie Podcast, proudly sponsored by Cimarron Golf Club. What is going on, Pooj crew? Thank you for being here for episode 106 of the Poojie Podcast. We are excited to be here to discuss some of the recent Jacksonville Jaguar roster moves. We're going to take a look back at preseason week 3 as well. But thank you for being here. If you're watching live, be sure to comment your thoughts during the show. We'd love to answer some questions and discuss some football talk with you guys. If you're listening on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe, like the video, share the video, and go find us on Spotify, iHeart, Google, Apple, whatever platform you use for your podcasts. If you haven't done so already, we just ran through our whole positional analysis over the last month, all the way through August, and here we are finally done with that. We had 4 episodes talking about the position groups, and now we're here to talk about the final roster, talk about week 3 against the Cowboys preseason, and we'll be back next week to kind of preview week 1 against the Texans and what we can expect. Maybe we'll dive into that a little bit this episode as well. But for right now, I want to welcome in the fellas. Guys, thank you for being here. Sam, you doing a little NFT trading over there? What's going on with you, man?
Yeah, you gotta get into the metaverse, people. Like, that's where the money's at right now. It's not in your bonds. I don't know, Luke. You're in the financial market, so I'm sure you can go into detail about your 60-40 portfolio setting up for people. But the real money is in the metaverse. Everybody, you got to go check it out.
Metaverse. Okay, I don't know anything about that. Luke, do you know anything about these NFTs, or do you stick to straight cash, homie?
Yeah, I have no idea what
That's
an
the one
NFT
with
is.
Tobey Maguire?
What's up, Jacob?
So
What?
is the metaverse the one with Tobey Maguire?
No, you're thinking of the Spider-Verse.
Oh,
shit.
Is
The
the one-
Spider-Verse.
Metaverse.
The
Thinking
Spider-Verse.
of the one with Batman.
Yeah, Luke, teach us, man, about Risk.
I have no
Spider-Man-
idea. What's an NFT?
It stands for a non-fungible token.
Okay.
Jeez.
Okay.
These computer nerds these days, they come out with cryptocurrency and then they start putting up JPEGs of flowers and rocks for millions of dollars.
Yeah, that's where it's at.
I'm gonna stay away.
Luke coin for $100.
What is it? Luke coin?
Yeah, I'll give you 50 Luke.
Yeah, that's what I want to do actually. Luke, can I just invest in your growth, like your production over the next few years?
Yeah, 50
I want to
Luke
invest
coin,
in you.
$100.
I just want to invest in your stock, your growth, the Luke stock. But anyways, guys, fantastic game this past weekend. Everyone get a chance to watch Jags Cowboys on Sunday. A little 1 o'clock football action. It was fun.
It was nice looking at the stadium that we've been to before and been like, oh, I was sat in those seats right there, right behind Jerry Jones.
Right near Jerry Jones. Got a little quick selfie with Jerry Jones. Drank one too many Coors Lights and had a lot of different snacks and food. And we came out on the plus side this game. When we went, Luke, we got blown out by like 35 points, and then we went in and just won by 20. So pretty fun game to watch. Sam, what about you, man?
Are you talking about that old that Cowboys game where Dak Prescott just absolutely shredded us? It was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in 2018. It was just a joke. The Cowboys blew us out of the water, and we looked like a freaking high school team.
Cole Beasley had 3 tutters.
Actually, there's probably some high school teams in Texas that looked better than us that day against the Cowboys.
I thought
We ragged on Jack for starting Cole Beasley as a receiver in his fantasy team, and then Cole Beasley proceeds to have like 3 tutters in that game, and Jack showed us wrong. So
this was the game that was right after our Super Bowl game with New England, where we beat New England, and we were like, oh, that was basically like a highlight of our year. And then the next week, I think we played the Cowboys, and we just got murked. I
don't know if it was that very next week, because that Cowboys game was October, and I'm pretty sure the Patriots game was week 3 in September. But by the time we played the Cowboys, I remember we were already a little demoralized. I think we were on like a 4-game losing streak in 2018 that year.
Here, let me pull up the schedule.
Look it up. Jacob, while you look that up, Sam, Jacob, you get a chance to watch the game as well on Sunday?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was kind of weird because it was at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So usually preseason games, I feel like Friday night, Saturday night. So I was like a bit like, oh, shoot, I forgot the Jags game. But I was really excited to see it just because I'll preseason, we've kind of been waiting for Trevor Lawrence to do something kind of out of the ordinary. I mean, so far he's looked decent, and then, you think, okay, he hasn't really flashed for us yet, but it is preseason. Well, this game he flashed, and he flashed big, and it was against backups, but I don't really care. I think it was just good to kind of get a game like that under your feet in the books before you go into week one. So any questions you have about how is this going to work, how is the play calling going to work, are we going to be ready? I don't care if it was against backups. We kind of needed to show some kind of rhythm and offensive firepower like they did.
Yeah, honestly, I don't buy into the whole it was against backups argument, because here's the deal. He wasn't throwing footballs to DJ Chark or, Marvin Jones out there. He didn't even have 80% of his starting offensive line, so it goes both ways. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is going to be the starter, but you still have to make the throws. You still have to execute the plays, and he did that phenomenally. I think he went 11 for 12, 130 yards and 2 tutters, and that's all you can really ask for from your rookie starting quarterback. Granted, number 1 overall pick, he has very high expectations, but Jacob, you hit the nail on the head. That is what we needed to see. If we saw another dud in week 3, I think a lot of us would be feeling very differently right now heading into week 1 of the NFL regular season. Luke, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It was against a bunch of backups, so it's one of those games where you expect them to do well, and the only thing that can come out of it is confidence boosting. So, which I think happened. I mean, he had 2 good drives and then took him out. But if, like you said, if he had come out and was flat against a bunch of 2s, I would be pretty scared going into week 1.
Yeah.
Yo, how about that chemistry though with Laviska Shenault? It just looked seamless. All those summer nights and wherever the heck they went and partied, or they must have done some
up in Clemson when they were up on the boat in Clemson hanging out.
Where is Clemson?
South Carolina.
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay.
It's in its own world.
It sounds like it's in like Ohio for some reason.
Nah, man, no. It's in like it's a small town in the middle of South Carolina, and if you take that college out of it, it's literally nothing. Like, there's no reason to even be there, which is funny because a lot of people tied that whole relationship with Trevor Lawrence to being from Gainesville, Georgia, another small town, going to Clemson, South Carolina, another small town, coming to Jacksonville, not so small of a small town, but a very a smaller market, we'll say, compared to a lot of other cities like Chicago and New York that are in the NFL. So I think when during the draft process, a lot of people pegged Jacksonville, or at least Trevor Lawrence did, pegged Jacksonville as a great landing spot because he likes that small town vibe, that southeastern country type vibe, and I think he's extremely comfortable and happy in Jacksonville. Again, if you're watching live, feel free to drop some comments and questions. We'd love to answer anything you got about the Jaguars preseason, heading into the regular season, roster cuts, roster moves, everything like that. But the chemistry with him and Laviska is going to be something to behold, and partly feel bad for DJ Chark because he hasn't had the preseason to really develop that chemistry, but I also think that's to the benefit of the offense for when Chark comes back. Him and Viska are going to be on the same page, and then Chark gets into the mix. You have the reliable Marvin Jones there on the field as well. I mean, that's a great receiving core for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, great. There's not like a superstar per se, but it's a reliable receiving core. And Laviska Shenault might be the strongest NFL wide receiver this year. He is a beast. It takes like 5 guys to tackle him. It's unbelievable.
He almost backpacked that one guy into the end zone.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is he went on a quick screen, he got a first down. You're like, oh, this is cool, and then just carried a man another 5 yards. I almost thought he was gonna score.
God, if he would have scored that might have been one of the highlights of the season, and it was week 3 of the preseason.
Yeah,
but not just for the Jags, the whole NFL.
I can only imagine his workload after ETN goes down is just going to explode. Like, this guy's probably looking at, the high digit target numbers every game. I mean, every catch that would have gone to ETN is going to go probably to Shenault. I mean, anything out in the screen, anything out of the backfield, I mean, they're just going to dish it off to him. I mean, it's going to be awesome. So
And
target
that's
him
the
in
thing.
fantasy leagues. I think that's going to be where most of ETN's work goes personally.
That's the thing, though, like you said, Sam, with it being a lot of, stuff short, that he's capable of producing big gains. It complements Chark and Marvin Jones so well. Like, you got a couple of guys that, are deep threats, and hopefully Chark, evolves into more than just a deep threat and more of like a, full route tree. But with two guys that like to go deep, and then you have him that just bullies people for 10 yards, it's going to like open each other up, I feel.
Hey, and Jacob, speaking of open up, did it feel like the Jags opened up the playbook this week? Like, it felt like we were watching something we hadn't seen the first 2 weeks, or were they just executing better?
I don't know. I don't want to say they were just executing better, because I don't think we were seeing them come out with the same rhythm or almost the same like just script. It looked like maybe in the first 2 games they were kind of holding back and people were complaining about that, but it's preseason. And maybe what opened up the playbook a little bit in preseason was the fact they were down 4 offensive linemen starters. They were playing without 2 of their top 3 receivers. So instead of, just doing casual dropbacks and like timing routes or whatever, let's move him. Let's get him out of the pocket. Let's do some bootlegs. Let's do quick things because of our offensive line. We want to play him, but Urban said they almost didn't play him. But we need to see something, and it ended up, being a great gamble. I think they opened it up, and maybe it was because of what they were working with and not wanting to put Trevor in harm's way.
Yeah, and he looked protected the whole game. And Urban said that post game in the locker room. He said, hell of a job to the offensive line playing with, Will Richardson in a spot that he had never played at before. We were out Linder, we were out Norwell, Cam Robinson wasn't in. I think Jawan Taylor was the only starter on the field. And did you guys hear this stat last year? First of all, Jawan Taylor allowed 18 sacks, which was league high for sacks allowed by any offensive lineman. Second of all, Jawan Taylor was ranked 59th by Pro Football Focus as an offensive lineman or an offensive tackle, and Cam Robinson was ranked 61st as an offensive tackle, and there were 62 eligible spots. So we had a situation where our two starting offensive tackles rank in the final 4 of the league from 2020. That's a huge concern.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why we went out and got Walker Little, thank God. But we definitely need another one. Obviously, I don't know where we get it. I mean, Cam Robinson's a good player in my opinion, and I think that we should have. I'm glad that we kept him on the franchise tag, because who else would we play? Even if we drafted 2 guys, you're still starting 2 rookies now to protect your rookie quarterback. Like, at some point, that's veteran presence,
That's a hell of a point, and we talked about that in the draft process about Walker Little. Was you put Jawan Taylor out there with Walker Little, who have a combined 1 year of NFL experience? How comfortable do you feel with having your franchise quarterback behind those 2 guys? You'd almost prefer starting the more veteran Cam Robinson in that spot on the offensive line. Let's get into this real quick. I want to ask you guys a question, just kind of firing from the hip. Looking back at the preseason, looking back at training camp, if you had to pinpoint one regret that the Jaguars maybe have from the offseason, what would that regret be? Something in the draft, something in free agency, something that just happened with roster moves? Is there like one regret that you're looking at that you think, man, that's going to be a big problem because they didn't address this?
Yeah, I'll go first because I got something on my mind. I think it's when they released Algic Rosas too early.
Okay.
And I think that what happened was that Urban Meyer liked him, and I guess Trent Baalke or whatever, he was like, oh, well, we'll just go with, Lambo. He makes every kick. Well, as preseason goes on, you can kind of see him struggle. And then the nail, hit the nail on the head. Maybe I talked about this last week, was when Rosas scored, against us.
Yeah.
And Lambo. So it's like, and then today I think we brought in like a new college kicker. So that just shows you that the coaching staff's not really confident in Lambeau and that they're looking elsewhere. Whereas we had somebody who's a quality kicker already on the roster. Like, how do you let him go without fully evaluating that talent?
Yeah, and that's tough because you're in training camp and you're trying to make roster spots for players that might provide more value, and you're holding on to 2 kickers as long as you can, maybe even 3 kickers. And it comes down to, okay, we think we have something comfortable with Lambeau, and then for him to come out and doink one off the goalpost in New Orleans, miss another one, and then Rosas drills a 53-yarder right before halftime in New Orleans, yeah, it's not the best sign from Urban Meyer watching across the field as Rosas runs off the field. But Josh Lambeau coming off a pretty big injury, maybe it took the preseason for him to get back into the groove, get back into the swing of things, because with kickers, it's the ultimate muscle memory position. And, there's not much that goes into it besides that muscle memory, that plant foot. And for a team like the Jaguars, who have struggled in recent years on offense, you need to have a reliable kicker. There's a reason Josh Scobie has been a fan favorite for 10 years. There's a reason Josh Lambeau was a fan favorite for the last 3 or 4 years. And there's a reason Jason Myers was a cast-off who is now succeeding in Seattle. Like in Jacksonville, we recognize we're not going to get into the end zone every possession. We need someone reliable in the kicking spot. Hopefully Lambeau shakes off some of that injury rust and gets back out there at full strength. Jacob, Luke, what about you guys? Any regrets you're looking back at from this offseason?
You got one, Luke?
Yeah. I mean, I would say probably not trading Minshew earlier. Just watching those preseason games, I think the value that Minshew had, it just dropped, because watching him play in those preseason games, I mean, his arm just looked like it was just rubber. I don't know, because he couldn't make those deep throws. And beforehand, you had that previous mindset of, oh, Minshew's that guy that can go out there and kind of be that Fitzpatrick and win you a few games. He can't take you the distance, but he can win you a few games. And I feel like before the preseason games, he probably had more value to teams like the Eagles or somebody like that. And we might have been more than just a 6th-round pick. Plus, splitting those reps with Trevor Lawrence also didn't help.
Yeah, valid points. I completely agree. We talked about Minshew's value earlier in the offseason, and it was like, get rid of him now. Like, you already know you're not going to start him, and it went from a quarterback battle between Lawrence and Minshew to then now there's a battle between Beathard and Minshew within the span of like 3 days. Like, how embarrassing is that for a fan base or for a coaching staff to where you don't know your quarterbacks well enough to now they're battling. The guy who was battling for the starting role is now battling for the backup role, and then you get rid of him as quickly as possible. It's embarrassing. But on the point of Minshew real quick, I want to get back to that offensive line talk. How much of the offensive line struggles do you think might have been attributed to Gardner Minshew's lack of talent or lack of timeliness holding on to the football, throwing the football at the right time? Because Trevor Lawrence slings the rock, and it might not always be caught, but he gets rid of it a lot quicker. I feel like the offensive line maybe looked a lot shittier than they might have been because Minshew tried to do too much with his legs, tried to hang on to the ball too much, tried to wait for the perfect opportunity because he didn't have that arm strength. A window that's 2 feet wide, Lawrence can hit. A window that's 2 feet wide is picked off by Minshew because of arm strength. So what are y'all's thoughts on that? The offensive line, with Minshew compared to Lawrence and how they might progress.
Well, I mean, I was gonna say the thing I can really like think about is like that even if Minshew had like a good pocket, he wasn't as good as he was when he was out of the pocket. Whereas I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be the opposite. I think he's going to operate better in the pocket, so the offensive line can kind of naturally, do their job and know if they can hold their job that he's going to be able to perform. So whereas, the offensive line with Minshew is like, oh, well, he's just going to leave the pocket or, even if the pocket collapses, he can like escape kind of thing.
Well, I mean, look at that first big throw from Trevor when they were playing the cow. Oh, we lost Justin naturally. Welcome to the woes of the Wi-Fi. I think when you think about the offensive line in Gardner versus Trevor, that first big throw, which was literally the second throw, I think, of the game for Trevor, he launched it about 40 yards, but it was within like only a couple, 2 or 3 seconds of snapping the ball. It wasn't like he sat there and, had to really wait for the receiver to get down, or he had to really wind up. I think Gardner is not going to be able to make that throw nearly as far and as quick as Trevor did. And I say quick as in like on a line. So if Gardner's maybe like a not a strong like arm quarterback, he's probably got to wait for his receivers to kind of get more separation and let the play develop, rather than Trevor can just like hit guys, like make them open, or he can hit quick, deep post routes or out routes, whatever, just because of his arm strength. Where Gardner has to almost let the play out for his ability to actually like throw the ball. I just think that comes into it, even besides his mobility and like escaping the pocket.
And I think like the word I like to use is Trevor Lawrence has better anticipation, where where you said Minshew's waiting for the perfect time to throw it, and it seems like Lawrence kind of has better anticipation and knows the receiver's going to be in a certain spot at a certain time, and he's able to get rid of the ball faster, maybe catch the defense off guard a little bit. Jacob, what about you that we skipped over you with one regret from the offseason? You have anything in mind?
No, I mean, I kind of thought there wasn't like, it's so early for there to be like any true regrets. Like, we don't even know how players are going to play out. The one regret might be not acquiring, a better prospect at tight end, as a receiving tight end. But it's like, it's so early. The offense looked good without some, star-studded tight end anyway. We can't really say there's many regrets, but I think Luke had, a pretty good one with the whole splitting reps of Minshew and Trevor. I never want to say, like, you look back on a decision and think, like, oh, it would have been better. Like, we don't know if it would have been any different had they given him all the reps in terms of how he, like, ultimately performs, because he's the number one overall quarterback. But, yeah, if you would have given him full starter reps, like, from the get-go, like, how will he differ going into week one rather than, like, he battled for 2 weeks.
Well, maybe it's something where like the coaching staff recognized early on, this dude's fully prepared. Like, the starting reps will be great, whatever, that's great. And let me preface it with this. I fully agree. I think he should have gotten more starting reps, but I also think it could be viewed as an identifier of he's ready to go, he's prepared to go. And we've seen it in other training camps where the starters aren't taking all the reps just out of precaution for safety concerns, just kind of getting some rest and stuff. Now, I get it. He's a rookie. You shouldn't treat him like a veteran by any means. So I completely agree with that. But looking on the bright side of things, it could have been like okay, he's ready to go. Why risk anything wonky happening like a Dante Fowler issue like we saw a few years ago? The team's been plagued with injuries. Not that you want anyone to ever get injured, but you really don't want it to happen in training camp or the preseason. So I think that may have something to do with it. They identified him as a day one starter from the beginning.
Was it a respect thing though from Minshew? Because like Urban recently said, he didn't really know much about Minshew. I don't want to say they got off on the wrong foot, but I don't think he had, a care for Minshew. But then over time, he saw the work ethic. And he's like, he's a warrior. And did he almost like give him, it wasn't like a legitimate shot, but did he give him that shot maybe to like, show off for other teams because of a respect for who he was as a person, as a player, almost like Tim Tebow-esque in terms of just like a workout, warrior and just, trying to be better. I don't know if that'd be a reason.
Jags fans got so mad though about like Urban and the team not wanting to name like the starter. Dude, everyone was so mad, and I just don't know why they care. Like, he's gonna be the starter. Like, why do you care?
It's the insecurity of Jags fans, and it showed.
Like, why do you care? Like,
we're all insecure, Sam, and I think we shouldn't have cared. And I didn't personally care because I knew, but I think that's what it comes down to. Is there's been so many bad years and so many bad decisions that there's an insecurity in most Jags fans that it scared them. Like, why hasn't this happened yet? What's going on? And they're freaking out. And it's just like, relax.
You guys complained about how shitty the old coaching staff was, and then you celebrated when we got Urban, but now you're like questioning every single decision.
Oh yeah.
Ding 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 ding.
Like, maybe he knows what he's doing. Like, and you dumbass like couch surfing Twitter people have no idea, and you just need to like just let him do his thing. but
Yeah.
it's okay. They
Yeah,
all
we
got,
have yet to even play games.
and then they named him the starter, and then everyone started complaining about how, he didn't get enough first team reps. It's just like, just let, what worked before, obviously, or no, what we did before wasn't working. So like the fact that we're doing something different and not calling out, like giving people like, oh, you're the number one guy, or like, giving Taven Bryan all this freaking, first team D-line reps when he obviously wasn't like the best player. Like, just let the new coaching staff do what they do, and kind of like maybe we'll learn something. But like,
No, Sam, I agree, and I think on the Taven Bryan thing, I think he came out of college a very unique player that really didn't have a role, and the previous coaching staff is gone for a reason, and that could be in large part due to lack of developing players in the draft. And Taven Bryan, as bad as he's been for us, and as much as we haven't liked him, he's obviously doing something. Like, this current coaching staff has nothing indebted to Taven Bryan. They could have easily cut him today, just like they did with Jalen Camp and Colin Johnson and so many others that they don't necessarily, well, I guess they have ties to Camp, but Colin Johnson, where they don't have ties to Taven Bryan. Maybe they are more hopeful that with the right coaching on the defensive line, Taven Bryan will fit better in a 3-4 defense, will be developed better under new coaching. I have no problem with the Taven Bryan thing. Now, if he's not performing in week 3, week 4, and we're still seeing the same shit, then yeah, get rid of him. But
so I was talking about how Taven Bryan, like when he first came in, I'm talking about the old coaching staff, when they would play him like over good players or like over veteran guys, and the team just looks at that like, dude, like, what are you guys doing? Whereas this staff is actually making, put the best players on the first team offense. You know what I'm saying? So anyway,
I agree.
I guess we talked about how they didn't do that with Trevor, but maybe they're trying to scheme something up with him.
Luke, what do you got for us?
Touching on Taven Bryan, I mean, what I told you guys earlier today, he just seems like he's 20 seconds behind the play. Like there's two guys sacking a quarterback. Taven Bryan comes in and like you think he might get a flag because he comes in late trying to tackle him as well. He's just like right behind the play every time, and it's like if you can just make him in the right spot by like a second, he would be okay. But he's not. He's always perennially like 2 seconds off.
Right. Like a half.
And then like he makes just bonehead flags, and it just ruins our momentum. If like we're on third down and he has some boneheaded mistake with a flag and gets him a first down, it just kills so much momentum for us.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Taven Bryan. He was kind of he wasn't one of my surprises on the final roster, but he was definitely someone I was watching. I want to ask you guys.
There's also like a sunk cost fallacy. You're not paying him a lot. He's a first round pick for a reason. You don't want to just give it away. It's a sunk cost fallacy. He could be absolute garbage, but there's that chance that he's not.
Yeah, and it's worth keeping, kind of like we've talked about with C.J. Henderson. Ironically enough, another Florida Gator that we drafted, where we're giving them chance after chance after chance because they're first round talent, not getting paid much, but being paid already with guaranteed money. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I want to ask you guys this. We touched on Minshew a little bit. After watching Beathard in the preseason, hopefully we don't get to a situation with backup quarterback situations. But if CJ Beathard were to have to play at any point in the season, are you more comfortable with Beathard at this point than if we were to have kept Minshew? Does Beathard seem like a kind of guy that might be able to go out and do what Minshew did 2 years ago and win 6 of 12 and go 500? Is Beathard, has he shown you guys enough in his career that, he's a top 10 backup, top 5 backup in the league?
So let me just throw out there, last year, Jimmy Garoppolo got benched for CJ Beathard. So before you start talking smack, just, would you rather have what was it, Minshew or Jimmy Garoppolo? Let's ask that question. It's like, so, I mean, if they're comparably the same player, then you're comparing, Minshew got benched for Jake Luton. So, would you rather have, Jake Luton or freaking CJ Beathard?
No, and I wasn't talking crap about Beathard at all. I just, I felt like from watching him, I was like pretty inspired watching him play. Like he played very well for a large part of the preseason, and like I think that's what made the Jags so comfortable with getting rid of Minshew. And to Luke's point, they probably should have done it a lot sooner because they had $2 million invested in Beathard and like whatever $560,000 invested in Minshew. So at that point, it's like, all right, money wise, you're already going to keep Beathard likely, and then from the talent and the skill on the field, Beathard looked better. And then quick hot take on tight ends, real quick. We talked about not going out and maybe getting a better tight end, better receiving tight end. I want to look at some of the best tight ends in the league. Who would you guys say are some of the top tight ends in the league? Obviously, Travis Kelce, George Kittle. Who else do we?
I like Dallas Goedert.
Waller.
I think that he's an all-around good player.
But
Good
no,
block,
but
good
like
receiving.
great tight ends up till this point in their career. I think Goddard's got a great ceiling, but I think he's probably middle of the road, like 15.
Zach Ertz.
We got to start with little Gronk there on the Tampa Bay, Bucks. Don't forget about him. I feel like
Okay, so let's go with this. Here's my hot take. Gronk had Tom Brady in New England and now again in Tampa. Travis Kelce has Patrick Mahomes. George Kittle had, Jimmy Garoppolo when he was actually a good quarterback. Darren, what's up?
Darren Waller. Keep going. I feel like I just know where you're going with
the
this.
Raiders, though.
Darren Waller on the Raiders, he had a resurgence in his career with Derek Carr, who's a top 10 fantasy quarterback, always puts up yards. Top 10 any given week, I should say, not top 10 overall, but with him. And then you got like Mark Andrews, who has, Lamar Jackson, and I think some of his growth has been stunted because of that. But I guess what I'm getting at is this. When it comes to tight end, I feel like we're overlooking the aspect of, I think a lot of what a tight end is capable of doing is attributed to the quality of the quarterback. And if you take a lot of these tight ends and put them on other teams, they're not going to be as good. I mean, the guy in Buffalo, what's his name? Dawson Knox? Dawson Knox. He was like a household tight end name in fantasy football because of Josh Allen.
Right.
And Jimmy Graham when he was in Seattle with Russell Wilson, and then even in New Orleans with Drew Brees, Dallas Clark with Peyton Manning. So what I'm getting at is I feel like it's not about going out and getting top 5 tight ends in the league and bringing them to your team. It's about getting the quarterback that is capable of developing the chemistry. We all remember what happened with Julius Thomas when he left Peyton Manning and came to the Jags.
That's an excellent comparison. I was when you were saying that, I was thinking of Noah Fant. I mean, he was a top 10 guy, right? Top 11. Maybe it was the 9th overall pick, or maybe it was 11th or something.
No, you're right. Look at T.J. Hawkinson.
Right. So I mean, those guys. You're right. So who did they got thrown to them?
So you don't think, Sam, that Trevor Lawrence could make a resurgence of Zach Ertz?
No, I think that James O'Shaughnessy is being overlooked. I've been telling you that guy is a fantastic football player.
I thought that's where Justin was going with this. I thought he was about to claim that James O'Shaughnessy was about to break out as a top tight end because now he's got Trevor Lawrence throwing the ball.
With the top tight end, he can be serviceable though, where you don't have to go and spend all this money and draft capital.
No, absolutely.
Be microscopically better than the guy we already have.
I would rather have James O'Shaughnessy perform at 70% production and 70% less salary than go out and get this big name, big tight end that's going to perform maybe a little bit better, might have 1 or 2 more touchdowns, whatever. But my main point was, now that we have an actual serviceable quarterback who is expected to be potentially a top 5 quarterback in the league down the road, I don't think this whole James O'Shaughnessy theory is far-fetched, especially based on his athleticism. And even Chris Manhertz had a nice catch in the preseason game, and I don't want to blow it out of proportion, but I think what I'm saying is a lot of times tight ends are usually 3rd and 4th options to the offense. So if you have a quarterback that's incapable of going through their progressions, tight ends are always going to get overlooked by quarterbacks. When you have good quarterbacks like a Patrick Mahomes, like a Josh Allen, like a Aaron Rodgers with Robert Tonyan. He had Mercedes Lewis doing good things. He's had in the past, what's his name?
Blake
Lee,
Bortles
I
with
think.
Mercedes Lewis.
But all I'm saying is I feel like the quality of a tight end is almost directly tied to the quality of a quarterback. And I think if Trevor Lawrence can come out here and play well, I think that might have something to do with why we didn't go get a tight end in free agency or a better tight end in the draft, because let's see what this quarterback can do with the current situation before we make any moves, i.e. the Julius Thomas situation. in Jacksonville. So I wonder what your thoughts are on that stuff, or if you guys have any other thoughts on anything else right now.
Yeah, the only thing I can think about is when I was at the beach bars and I took a piss next to Julius Thomas in the bathroom. That's the only thing I can think about right now. But
Did you? I remember you texted us that, and
besides that iconic moment, I think that you hit it on the head. I mean, like, do you guys want to? Pay. How much did we pay Julius Thomas? Wasn't it like almost like
A lot of money
a year? It was something absolutely retarded.
Yeah, it was absurd. The whole situation was absurd, and outside of Gronk, who went to another team with the same quarterback that he had when he was successful, how many tight ends have we seen move around in free agency, move around, get whatever it is, and actually become equally as successful? Has there been any?
Bruh. Yeah. Wait. Keep going. Sorry.
No. I want to hear any thoughts. Like, if any tight ends come to mind that were successful under an elite quarterback that have left.
Those teams wouldn't get rid of that tight end.
Yeah,
if
bingo.
It's that good. Yeah, if he's that good,
end.
he's not going to leave. The team's going to keep him. But going back to that, Greg Olsen was on the Panthers for like 80 years with terrible quarterbacks, and he had Cam Newton for like that stretch where he was good. And Greg Olsen's still like a very well-known name before Cam Newton. So, I mean, you can be great without an amazing quarterback.
And that's what I was going to say is that, yes, good quarterbacks probably help tight ends produce more.
They help the whole offense.
But we're also looking at, like, where is a tight end's baseline, and then when you add in that quarterback. So, yeah, Travis Kelce put with Gardner Minshew is probably going to still perform better than James O'Shaughnessy put with Gardner Minshew. Just because, like, we're talking about great players at either position. So, yeah, we don't necessarily need to go out and get a big buck tight end right now for Trevor because he can hopefully uplift guys at lower levels. But it would be nice that if you matched up a above average tight end with now we have a Trevor Lawrence, because tight ends are just the greatest mismatch it seems on offense nowadays, where if you have the good one, not everyone can have the good one. People are trying to find the next one. It's just rare. I mean, when you have a Travis Kelce or George Kittle or now Darren Waller, I feel that's a huge mismatch that you can exploit. But you can't force a guy just with a body size and speed to do it. You just have to come across it. When you do, now you have it to work with.
Yeah, and that's a huge point. I feel like tight end is that exact position where it's extremely difficult to scout as far as identifying who is going to be the next elite tight end. I feel like a lot of guys come out of college with similar measurables, similar stats, but I think it does come down to that chemistry with the quarterback. We've spent 15 minutes on tight ends, but it's important to Jacksonville because who knows, 2-3 years down the road, that tight end position could be the difference maker between, winning the division or, getting a wild card berth or having, 9 wins versus 6 wins or whatever the case is. So it's important to us because we haven't had an extremely successful tight end. When you look back at the history of Jacksonville, most successful tight end we've had was probably Kyle Brady, who played with Mark Brunell, arguably the best quarterback up to this point in Jaguars history, further solidifying my argument about the quarterback attributing to the quality of the tight end. Now, Kyle Brady was more of a blocking tight end, but you go past Kyle Brady, then you go to Mercedes Lewis, who had David Garrard, a serviceable quarterback for most of his career, and was a decently high-performing tight end. So in my opinion, you look at Hunter Henry, you look at Jonnu Smith. I know it was painful to not go get one of those guys. Jonnu Smith more than Hunter Henry, in my opinion, because Hunter Henry's been injured like almost every season of his career, it feels like. But Jonnu Smith, it felt like, would have been a good pairing here in Jacksonville, just to provide Trevor Lawrence with something more athletic or something, as Jacob said, an above-average tight end to see what the ceiling could potentially be.
Well, here's the thing, and now that you have the potential franchise quarterback, this is what will make future drafts we have more interesting, because now we don't have to worry about finding that guy. As long as this pans out, it's like now if you have a top pick, because we're still bad this year, maybe we can look at getting a luxury like a Kyle Pitts that comes out or a TJ Hawkinson. Before, we probably shouldn't have done that because we have so many more needs than that. If Lawrence becomes what we hope he becomes, now like that's when we can start like maybe taking some of those luxury picks higher up in the draft, because we're probably not going to be like a great team next year. Like if we are, like that's amazing. If not, like it's not surprising, and we're still probably going to have a higher pick that, maybe next year there's a top tight end that we want to get, or maybe a top left tackle we want to get in the draft. So it all, like you said earlier, we just have to see how it plays out. Like Sam said, let's not throw this offensive coaching staff or anyone under the bus. Like, let's just see what we got first.
Well, I would put my money right now on a left tackle next year, no matter where we pick, just based on what we've seen so far. And with it being Cam Robinson's, franchise year or whatever, I think, we would see that as being a very high possibility left tackle next year. Well, let's run through this real quick. Let's run through the roster moves. Notable people being cut. We'll just go through this real quick. From the wide receiver room, Jalen Camp, Jeff Cotton, who made a tremendous catch this week, Josh Hammond, who he was the star of preseason week 1, and then Colin Johnson, a draft pick from 2020. And then we also released Pharaoh Cooper, who had a touchdown this week, Philip Dorsett, who has spent most of his time on the IR with Jacksonville. Laquan Treadwell, I think, was a big surprise for me. It felt like he played his way onto the roster. Those are the 7 wide receivers we cut, and we end up only keeping 5 receivers. I don't think anyone saw that coming. We obviously keep the top 3, Marvin Jones, DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault, as well as Jamal Agnew as a return specialist likely. And then late comer to the team, Tavon Austin, played his way onto the roster during the preseason as well. Back to Sam's point about ETN being gone, maybe this coaching staff sees Tavon Austin as an opportunity to kind of replace some of that workload. What were you guys' thoughts about that whole situation in the wide receiver room, with any surprises to you guys?
Damn, I was surprised that that they kept Tavon Austin, Jesus. Because isn't he hurt? I thought he would be at least out, a couple weeks. Just kind of surprising they would.
He got injured late. Go for it, Jacob. What was it?
I was just going to say, I think he might be injured right now. But, I mean, I think he just sparked. And you think of,
right,
on a very simple basis, you have a quarterback. He gets a line that blocks for him. He has receivers that catch the ball. But Urban Meyer, this is what he does. He constructs offenses. He has like roles. I think he looks at like the role of what Travis Etienne hopefully was going to be. And you guys talk about, or like Sam, you mentioned like maybe Laviska, takes on some of that role. Well, maybe Laviska has his own role that they already want him to have that included some of that. So instead of taking him away from that, let's get someone else that's a similar size. He's probably smaller actually. But can maybe play more of a Travis Etienne role, maybe out of the backfield, or these short things where we leave Laviska to do what Laviska's going to do, because I think he can be like a baller if he gets let loose. I think what's surprising is it was 5 receivers and then like 3 tight ends. I feel like they went low on both the receiving, positions. So does that mean they're looking to see one? People like Jalen Camp, maybe not Colin Johnson, they'll probably be on the practice squad. You can probably bring them back. But, like, who gets waived or cut? I had an interesting name of someone that got waived, and I don't think he's, like, going to change the team by any means. But Travis Fulgham from the Eagles got waived. So it's like that's somebody that we saw in season last year, like, produce some big games, kind of tapered off some. But it's like there might be guys that they want to see, like, and they might pick, and then we might go into the season with a 6th receiver that we don't even know about.
Yeah, I think from those moves, it just shows you they're going to try and pick someone up now that cuts are being made, someone that's on another roster. I heard some people saying about keeping 7 receivers versus 6, and now we end up keeping 5. Yeah, go for it, Jacob.
I mean, and I don't mean to cut you back off, but I wrote this down while we were talking because I was looking up stuff. Would you guys, talking about losing ETN and maybe like Tavon taking over his role, someone got cut that isn't as youthful as they once were, but made a lot of their money at the running back position as a pass catcher, and that's Devonte Freeman. He was cut by the Saints. I don't know how much he would be like asking for, but to me, that could potentially be a good add to like be a complementary piece to a Carlos Hyde and James Robinson that we don't have.
Yeah. Luke, you got anything? Sam, you got anything?
No, I think what is it? I was gonna say, does it look bad if like we keep a wide receiver and then we waive him and then pick up another wide receiver? Is it like look better if we do like a tight end for a wide? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, just because we were to pick up a guy, I don't think Tavon would then be like released or waived.
no, I'm saying like say we just keep Jalen Camp knowing that we're gonna like drop him for some other guy. Like, do you think that has anything to do with it, or am I just crazy right now?
About guys being waived?
No,
Or
like
either
you
waived?
drop Jalen Camp, who is a wide receiver, and then pick up a wide receiver.
So, all right, I have a
dropping like a tight end.
He might not just be ready for the active roster in their eyes and needs to develop in camp.
and I have a thought on that, Sam. To Jacob's point about Urban identifying players in certain roles. When you look at the guys that got cut, Josh Hammond, Jalen Camp, Quan Treadwell, and then even Jeff Cotton, yeah, they're all different sizes, but I think there was very easily a thought in their head of, okay, these guys are all the same type of guy. And we already have a guy on the roster that does everything that these guys can do. So let's free up a roster spot and maybe go out and get a guy that maybe has a different skill set or a different route tree than one of these guys. Because, in my opinion, Laquan Treadwell is probably, and then even Pharaoh Cooper and Philip Dorsett, Laquan Treadwell was probably the one that performed best in camp and in preseason. But I think when it came down to it, you're deciding between a lot of people that have similar skill sets. Like, the reason these guys aren't on an active roster already is likely because they are very vanilla when it comes to their type of play. They're a very generic type player. They're the kind of guy you might be able to get off the street any given time.
Right. I mean, I looked at Pharaoh Cooper. I thought he looked pretty good in that last preseason game. You know, he was kind of being our return man behind Agnew. I mean, so did we keep Chris Claybrooks though?
Yes, Claybrooks got kept.
And
So
that
then
we
he's
only
going to be our
have
number 2.
5 corners. I mean, I'm not that like that's necessarily a low number, but that's including Claybrooks. So we're going in with C.J. Henderson, Tyson Campbell, Shaquille Griffin, Trey Herndon, who has been hurt, and then Chris Claybrooks. So if you think about that, one of them's kind of a returner that could get hurt on any given return. That felt fitting to me at the cornerback
Claybrooks, don't be
position.
dissing my man like that, dude. That guy.
No, I'm not saying he's bad at corner.
That 4.3 speed, that first game when he just freaking exploded on that kickoff.
Yeah.
Dude, that was serious speed. He torched the entire
No,
defense.
I think he's good at that. I think he's even good playing outside. I'm just saying when you get put on a position like that, there's a chance for getting hurt.
I think this also plays into it. We kept 14 defensive linemen at any given position. 14 defensive linemen, and we're playing a 3-4 defense.
3-4. We took one defensive lineman position out.
Yeah, and we kept 14. We have Adam Gotsis, Lorente McRae, Aaron Patrick, no clue, Jordan Smith,
real good,
Dwayne Smoot, Jihad Ward, Josh Allen, who's a linebacker D end, Caleb Von Jason, linebacker D end, Taven Bryan, Roy Robertson Harris, Malcolm Brown, Daniel Ukiale, Devon Hamilton, Jay Tufele, and then, that's the 14. So I think when you decide to keep 14 defensive linemen, you're going to be slim at receiver and cornerback and wherever else because you're keeping like 2 more than you typically would. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I project a lot of moves still to come. Luke, anything from you on the roster side, keeping Claybrooks, keeping Luke Farrell at tight end, 3 running backs with a Zigbo being cut. Cottrell got cut. So we have, how do you say it? Ogunbowale. And then obviously we have James Robinson and Carlos Hyde. So a Zigbo cut. Anything from you, Luke?
What do our safeties look like? Is Wingard still on the team?
Oh, get him out of here!
How is Wingard still on the team?
Yo, how do you guys hate on Wingard?
We got 5
I hate on
safeties.
Wingard just like I hated on Neville Clark at UCF. Sometimes he'll make a play, but a lot of the times he won't.
Here's what I was just thinking of because I was looking at the safety position too. We kept 5 safeties, and I think that's partly why we only kept like 5 corners because it's like the safety and corner positions. I don't want to say will be interchangeable, but but we'll utilize the safeties in ways maybe we haven't in the past. I think looking at the receiver position and like the corner and safety position, you got to look at who was kept with special teams in mind. Urban Meyer, whether it'll work out or not, wants to be good on special teams. So I think Wingard, who's been good on special teams, that's primarily why he was probably, like a guy you're going to keep, because he's like, we want that, and like, well, if it's like a battle between this guy and this guy, well, this guy like was a better gunner on special teams, or this guy was a better return man.
Yeah, and that's why they say a lot of these guys make the roster on special teams, that, the gunners and making tackles and making plays. So you might be onto something, Jacob. But our safeties are Cisco, Rudy Ford, Rayshon Jenkins, Daniel Thomas, and Andrew Wingard. We cut Jared Wilson, who was a starter for us last year, so he's no longer with the team. And then we also traded defensive back Sidney Jones, IV, to Seattle yesterday. So two of the mainstays in the Jacksonville secondary are now gone. And again, I think it's a change of culture. I think it's, a change in coaching strategy, like Sam mentioned earlier. And you got to think, when a new coaching staff takes over, the returning players, not that they're at a disadvantage, but they have to prove themselves, because this coaching staff did not select these players to be on the team. It's a lot of times at a restaurant, right? A restaurant goes under new management. A lot of the people might be gone. They go under new management, and why are they under new management? Because the restaurant was underperforming. So you go through the interview process again, and it looks like, okay, if you're not worth it, we're going to get rid of you and bring in someone we want, because if someone's going to fail here, we want it to be on our own volition and not someone else's. So if you keep guys that Doug Marrone and Dave Caldwell brought in and they don't perform, well, now you kind of look like an idiot, because you didn't even have them there in the first place, in my opinion. So they're going with a lot of guys that I think, they brought in or they want around for special teams, like Jacob said.
Bro, Claybrooks got that 4.3 speed, not only returning, but on kickoff, when we kick it off, he's going to be one of the first guys there. And that dude lays the hits.
Lays the boom.
The boom, the lumber.
On these other guys, bro. That's how he freaking tore his shoulder out, because he just slammed into this dude, stopped him. But I mean, that guy's got. I think he's pretty good for a 7th round pick.
I think he developed.
Go for it, Luke.
I like Claybrooks a lot. I mean, he, like you say, all the intangibles that he has. I mean, he looks okay. I mean, he's not. I don't think he's going to be like one of the starting guys on defense, but for special teams, he looks amazing. And for a serviceable corner, he's all right.
He got thrown to the Wolves in his rookie season, and
bro,
now
that was CB1, bro. CB1.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was drafted to be a return specialist, and he got thrown into a starting role. So while it's not, the best talent, he has experience starting, at least. That if something goes down with some of our starting guys, he's at least like not just a return man.
Well, here's the deal. He got drafted, like Jacob said, specifically to be a returner, and I think that was made very apparent by the previous regime. It might have even said return specialist when they drafted him. I think the dude played cornerback 2 games in college at Memphis. Like, he had very limited experience at cornerback in college. So you got to think, his rookie season in the NFL was really his first time ever playing cornerback at any upper level football in his life, and now he's made the 53-man roster for the 2nd year in a row. He must be doing something right. Again, like Sam said, I'm not going to question the coaching staff on many things, because we've done that plenty in the past. We just got to let these guys take the reins and lead the reindeer to victory and just see what happens. So, but anything else from you guys before we call it a night here on episode 106?
Jacob, you brought up Devonte Freeman.
Yeah.
What about Adrian Killens?
Ooh.
He's also available, and he has speed. Oh, dude, that would be like...
What I think about when I think about Urban Meyer was 2008 Florida Gators, because obviously that was the one I watched the most. He had Jeff Dims in the backfield, a just speed track guy. What fits that mold? Adrian Killens.
Why don't we get both? Then we have Jeff Dims.
Why not both?
No, Adrian Killens would be good, because he would be that guy that... We have our receivers that are pretty solid core. We have our running backs, like one that, was a top back last year. He would just be a gadget piece to just put somewhere in a play in space and just boom. And that would actually probably be very exciting, and I think Urban Meyer would know how to use his speed.
Agumbawale was probably kept special teams and blocking ability as well over Divine Azigbo. Cottrell made some plays on Sunday, but he is no longer on the team either. And then Logan Cook, Josh Lambo on the special teams. And then we have Walker Little, Jawan Taylor, Shatley, Cam Robinson, Will Richardson, Andrew Norwell, Brandon Linder, and Ben Barch on the offensive line. I really don't think those are any surprises. I think that's what a lot of people identified as being the 8 offensive linemen that were kept. Linebacker, Dakota Allen, Miles Jack, Shaq Quarterman. That's exciting to see, actually. Shaq Quarterman, a draft pick from last year, making it onto the roster. He played his ass off in preseason, and a Jacksonville native, and University of Miami grad, and then Damian Wilson, and then another random Aaron Patrick type player, Chappelle Russell. So Chappelle Russell and Aaron Patrick, if you're listening, I'm sorry, I don't think you're going to find your way onto the 53-man roster once some other wide receivers get cut on other teams. But that's about it for the roster. I think we went through everything that's on the team. Going to be interesting to see how the defensive back plays out, how the wide receivers play out. But with no preseason week 4, we have about 10 days until our opening game on December 12th. So I guess that's 13 days, 12 days. September 12th. September 12th, right? Did I say December?
December. Yeah,
it was like.
Oh, I was looking ahead to some playoff, potential football for us.
Right.
I just want to say, when you said preseason, I am glad that we do not have a 4th preseason game at this point. It's like I'm kind of happy with this 3 games. I would be so bored if there was just a 4th game that nobody was going to play in.
Yeah,
Was there anyone like, I don't know, worse? I guess I was gonna say at least we got out without injury, but I mean, like, Travis Etienne going down is definitely
that was like a freak injury, though. That could have happened.
It didn't even look bad. Like, I guess it just.
The way I see it is we have 2 first-round picks this year.
Liz Frank.
Oh no, that's his foot.
Yeah, his foot. But J.K. Dobbins out for the year. Who else? Any other notable injuries in the NFL from preseason?
No, off the top of my head.
Just thinking of one.
I can't think of anything either.
No.
Yeah, and like I didn't pay attention to how people were playing their guys this preseason, only ours. So who knows? I felt like a lot of guys actually didn't really play much in the preseason this year compared to like the week 1 of our preseason. The Browns did not play a starter that I was aware of. Right. So it's like whether it has to do with how COVID changed some things last year's preseason and training camp, or I don't know, but I don't feel like many guys got hurt this year because I don't think a lot of guys played.
Yeah, that's true. Not a lot of notable guys played, and maybe that's for the better. Obviously, us fans, like, we want to see more quality football, but at the end of the day, I'd rather still have Travis Etienne on the team than watch him play in a preseason game. So it's difficult to watch those guys go down, but I'm excited. We're at the 53-man roster. I'm excited we're finally through the preseason, mostly injury-free. Any of our mainstays in our lineup. Would have been interesting to see how Travis Etienne fit in the offensive scheme. I think that's what I'm going to miss the most after so much speculation around the draft pick, what he would have done for this offense, especially after seeing the team open up the playbook in week 3 or execute a little bit better as well. So anything else from you guys before we hang it up on episode 106? Anything else?
I mean, I'll just throw in there that Julius Thomas, he signed a 5-year contract for $46 million back in 2016.
And think about that. Urban's like, I don't want to spend money just because we have
2015.
money. Like, so maybe it's a good thing he didn't go out and splash for any potential plus players.
Well, what about this? So instead of Etienne, what if we got Pat Freiermuth? He looks good on the Steelers right now.
That's what I wanted, baby. He's looking good, you said, in training camp?
Yeah, dude, he looked good on the Steelers. I think he had 2 tutters.
That's how I wanted. Justin would talk mad crap at me when I brought that up. He's like, man, we need to get more, depth on the O-line or something.
He is on the O-line sometimes. He's sometimes on the O-line.
Exactly.
But you're talking to an extremely biased person. I think outside of drafting a franchise quarterback, you're almost best off drafting an offense or a defensive lineman in the draft if there's still quality ones available.
Have we seen the Cowboys win the Super Bowl in the last 10 years? No, and they had one of the best offensive lines for as long as we were like watching football this last decade. Didn't turn into a Super Bowl. You just need the quarterback.
Hey, I never said it would translate to a Super Bowl. I said it would translate.
Well, that's what I want, Justin. I don't.
I'm
want
sorry.
A good offensive line for Ezekiel Elliott. I want a good offensive line for a Super Bowl.
I'm going to steal it. I'm going to steal the Vince Lombardi trophy and bring it to you.
No,
I'm going to steal
Trevor
it.
Lawrence will take us. I don't know.
Alrighty, fellas. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Fans out there listening, look who it is. Fans out there listening, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and like the page, like our videos. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, go check us out on YouTube. Check out the video elements and be sure to subscribe as well. Be sure to be here every week for your Jaguar news, Jaguar updates, Jaguar previews, talk, all that good stuff. We'll have a fun episode next week ahead of week 1 of the NFL season with our week 1 matchup against the Houston. Hopefully that's a good. But appreciate everyone for tuning in episode 100 football, but most importantly, go make this world a better place and take care.
How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man? How can I be the man when you're the man?